Listening to the Morning Punchin' Show with RB and J, live and direct from more cities than an Instagram model's bio. Get ready for some boxing talk on the clock. Let's face it, you're not working and somebody's got to pay for the Wi-Fi.
Good morning, everybody. It's the Morning Punchin' Show, the most unpredictable, unscripted, but always real morning boxing talk show in the game. Today is Monday, October 2nd. That's right. We're in a new month. It is October 2nd. We made it through September, and boxing looks to round the fourth quarter and close out the year strong. This is your girl, Jay. RB is traveling in Durham, North Carolina to promote her upcoming show on October 19th, so I'm holding down the fort for her today. We will continue with our show. We will have Jake Donovan joining us for Jake's Take. Our special guest today on the Hotline Bling is none other than promoter Lou DiBella, who will call in and discuss the ongoing situation with Deontay Wilder and his fight falling apart. And we'll hear about some of the other fight cards that he has coming up. Again, RB is traveling. She could jump in later in the show, but she is a busy, busy woman, and she is going to try to join us at some point during the show. Again, if you're in the Durham, North Carolina area, her show is on October 19th, and it will be headlined by Bailey versus Massey. Today's hot question for the show, in light of his recent positive drug test, what should happen to Luis Ortiz? Luis Ortiz, of course, is the heavyweight who is supposed to take on Deontay Wilder, so this is another positive performance-enhancing drug test that he's another failed drug test. So what should happen to him? Reply to me at Jeandra, or use in your response, use the hashtag TMPS, and we will read your response on the air. A lot of positive performance-enhancing drug tests in the heavyweight division, and Deontay Wilder looks to be getting the short end of the stick again with another opponent falling apart. So with that, before we jump into the fight recaps, and Jake Donovan joins us for Jake's Take, and Lou DiBella joins us for today's Hotline Bling, let's take a quick commercial break and get it out of the way so we can get right into the boxing news.
For all the latest news, interviews, and boxing schedules, visit BoxingInsider.com, providing readers with everything from the latest fight schedules to interviews with your favorite boxers. BoxingInsider.com has you covered from top to bottom. BoxingInsider.com is looking for new writers. Think you have what it takes to join the team? Submit your articles to our team at info@BoxingInsider.com. Visit BoxingInsider.com today, the only boxing website where you become the fifth man in the corner. When the mind is ready, the body prepares for war. So next time you engage in battle, protect your hands with the best. War Tape, the original branded tape. Order yours now at wartapebrand.com and see why the enemy will fear you. wartapebrand.com. We put hands on you.
Just to recap the other fights, Jake Donovan will be joining us on the show to talk a little bit of World Boxing Super Series and the other topics that he has ready for Jake's Take this morning. Just to give you some updates. Golden Boy on ESPN Deportes this weekend. Gary Spike O'Sullivan defeated Nick Quigley with a sustained two-handed assault, and the fight resulted in a stoppage in the fourth round of action. A completely dominant performance by Spike O'Sullivan, and with the win, he looks to face Gennady Golovkin in the future. That's right. Upon winning, he says he is campaigning for a shot at middleweight champion Gennady Golovkin, but he knows that he needs some more wins other than just over Quigley to get that fight. So good luck, brother. There's a lot of people waiting in that line now. Also on the card, in the junior lightweight co-feature, Darden Zunaj scored three knockdowns en route to a third-round technical knockout over Riquet Dulé. And, yes, a great win for him. Dulay's record fell to 10-3 with 7 knockouts. So that happened over on the Golden Boy card. Over on the World Boxing Super Series card, and I'll be bringing Jake Donovan in momentarily to talk about that, Marius Bredas retained his WBC Cruiserweight title by defeating Cuba's Mike Perez in a decision. Judges' final scores 114-112, 115-111, and 116-110. So a great night of action for the World Boxing Super Series. If you haven't had a chance to check out any of these fights, the Cruiserweight division These fights are excellent. You have a number of title holders, and you truly have the best in the division. So with that segue, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guy, Jake Donovan, so we can talk a little bit more about the World Boxing Super Series.
You're rocking with the Morning Punching Show with RB and J, and now it's time for Jake's Take.
Good morning, Jake Donovan.
Good morning, Jay. How are you? Shout out to RB. Thanks for letting us take this ride in your absence as you had on the grind in North Carolina.
Yeah, the inmates are running the asylum, so, the inmates are running the asylum. We'll see what we can pull off here. But what's going on, Jake? What are we talking about this morning on Jake's Take?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit of everything. Talk about a little World Boxing Super Series, revisit the Canelo Good Night of Golovkin pay-per-view. We got the numbers in. And then, of course, our favorite topic, drug testing. Before all that, thoughts and prayers to everyone suffering from the overnight attack in Las Vegas, the horrible terror attack with, the crazy shooter that they're calling it the worst terrorist attack. Well, they're not calling it a terrorist attack, unfortunately, but the worst attack in U.S. history. But Las Vegas, the boxing capital of the world. So thoughts and prayers to everyone out there suffering.
For those people who are unaware of exactly where this mass shooting in Las Vegas took place, when there are big super fights in Las Vegas and they put the media tent outside in a parking lot, the parking lot where they erect, like they did with Mayweather-McGregor, Mayweather-Pacquiao, where they erect the big media tent, that's where this shooting took place. So, Like Jake said, our thoughts and prayers are with those people. Yeah. Transitioning back into the business of boxing, let's start with the World Boxing.
Yeah, so, we're getting one step closer to the semifinals. Myris Briedis, he advanced to the semifinals with the win over Mike Perez. That's the good news. The very bad news, the fight was probably the worst main event of the Super Series so far. Kind of going back to a little bit of good news, there were two matchups that had the potential to be more intriguing than entertaining, and this was one of them. The other one could be Jürgen Brammer and Rob Brandt later. I think that's the last of the quarterfinal round. So this one, I didn't like the fight from the beginning from the simple fact Briedis had the opportunity to pick Dmitry Kudryashov. He instead chose Mike Perez. He's kind of been taking the safe approach ever since he's entered the world title stage. He was one of the most explosive cruiserweights coming up. And then once he got to Marco Huck, it was kind of another stinker of a fight in which he won the title. And now here against Mike Perez, this is just a horrible clinch fest all night. Perez had a nice start. He was, he said he was going to shock Briedis and, give him a different look that he's never seen before, and he did that early. He just couldn't sustain it. A lot of over-officiating. Perez lost a point for a ridiculous WBC rule where when there's a headbutt, the fighter who doesn't get cut winds up getting docked a point. It's a horrible rule because the guy who gets the cut should be the one initiating the headbutt, but Perez was the one who suffered. I didn't think he should have lost the point. I mean, he wasn't going to win the fight anyway as it went on, but it's a horrible rule. I'd like to see the WBC update. It doesn't take effect in the United States, so stateside fans really don't get to see that rule very often when it comes into play, but it happens overseas. I hope it gets abolished. But Briedis lost a point later on for holding. It was just, he got the win. Hopefully he looks good the next time. He's going to wind up facing Alexander Usyk in the semifinals. Usyk is the number one seed, and in the opinion of some, he's favored to win the tournament. Very dangerous fight. A year ago, this was actually a cruiserweight fight that I said it was going to have the cruiserweight division lit. This is a fight I said I go anywhere in the world to see this fight. Now it's like Briedis' past few performances. I'm like, I might keep my passport for something more interesting. But he's got, by his own admission, he has a lot of work to do. When he goes to face Usyk, he knows Usyk is a different breed altogether, so he's going to have to step up his game. Where he really dodges a bullet, according to the seeding, Usyk is number 1. Briedis is number 3. He really should be facing the winner of the upcoming October 21st fight between Murat Gassiev and Krzysztof Wlodarczyk. So, in my opinion, he dodges a bullet because Gassiev just has that brutal one-punch power. He can knock anyone out on any given night, cruiserweight, heavyweight, regardless to anyone. So, I think Usyk may very well be a better cruiserweight, but I think it's a better matchup for Briedis than if he would have faced Murat Gassiev.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. Usyk is favored, is seeded number 1 in the tournament. Do you favor Usyk over Gassiev?
Well, when the tournament was first, when all the matchups were first done, I was like, Gassiev is like the most dangerous number 2 seed in the world. If he wins, though, if he beats Wlodarczyk, which he should, he's got to face Junior Dorticos. So he's theoretically favored over Dorticos, but I mean that's another fight. I mean everyone was looking so far into the fight last week with Dorticos and Kudrashov. Gassiev and Dorticos is another fight where a knockout could happen at any given point in the night. So, and we really don't know what kind of punch Gassiev could take yet. According to the heavyweights who sparred with him, not only can he take a punch, but he's also the most brutal puncher they've ever faced. I mean, I know guys that have fought either Klitschko in world title fights, and they've sparred with Gassiev. They said Gassiev is the hardest puncher they've ever been in the ring with. So,
wow.
You know, I got to favor that kind of power, especially at cruiserweight. But, I mean, to say he's going to get past Dorticos, that's you got to wade through a lot in order to get to that point. So it's a long way to the finals, really, for anyone. But right now, I would say Usyk is probably the closest thing to a sure bet to advance to the finals. I will say that much.
I've been in the gym with, media days with a number of fighters, and there's only 2 fighters that made me shrink away when they were working the pads.
Yeah.
One was Marcos Maidana. Watching him do pads, Robert Garcia made me shrink away in fear, and the other is Murat Gassiev. When I went up to the Summit Gym, watched him pounding away on the water-filled bag, and he thought he was going to break it like a pinata, and that man's punch frightens me. Whoever is on the recipient of that punch is going to have a hard morning the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when Chris Arreola was training for the fight with Travis Kaufman. He said, he was sparring with Gassiev up in Big Bear. And, it just got to the point where, he was actually in very good shape for that fight, but then the next day he would come in to say, hey, Gassiev is on his way, and his reaction would just be like, shit. It's just like, of all people, that's just the one guy you do not want to see in sparring. Because Gassiev always brings it, sparring, fight night, whatever.
He's a tough kid. Definitely a tough guy. I still favor him. I'm going to stand with my pick of favoring him to win the whole thing. So we will wait and see with that matchup.
Yeah, like I said, he's my pick. I'll go ahead and reveal both my picks. I picked him, and in the super middleweight division, I'm actually picking Chris Eubank Jr. I think he's going to wind up winning. He's going to shock a lot of people. A lot of people clown on him. He's had his weird negotiations in the past, but there's no turning back now. He knows he's in this tournament. If he pulls out, that's career suicide. But I think he knows what he's in for, and I think he beats any super middleweight in the world right now. And if he were to fight Billy Joe Saunders in a rematch, I'd heavily favor Chris Eubank Jr. in that fight as well.
All right. Well, with that, we turn the page on the World Boxing Super Series. Let us go ahead and switch over to Canelo versus Triple G numbers.
Yes.
This week, some of the numbers have been trickling out, the reports have been trickling out, which led to a joint statement. It was funny, too. It was between Golden Boy Promotions and GGG Promotions, not from K2, but Golden Boy and GGG Promotions in the press release saying that those numbers were not true and that they were still counting. Jake's take on that.
Okay. Theoretically, yes, that is true. The way they want to now count numbers, yes, there are still more numbers to be counted. They're counting online sales, people who purchase through Ring TV and, any other format. The problem with that is the pay-per-view tallies have always come from just traditional pay-per-view sales from cable and satellite providers. For example, the Manny Pacquiao, a Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao fight, that set the record from cable and satellite. It didn't take into account any other way you purchased the pay-per-view. So, yes, Golden Boy wants to put out a different number. I don't know why they're disappointed with Lance Pugmire's report. Lance Pugmire is like the one guy in the game where if he says something, I'm going to believe it's true. I'll take his word over anyone else in the game. Lance Pugmire has that reputation. And I know he has his pay-per-view sources. All of us do have some sources. Lance Pugmire, he's going to do his homework before he puts something on paper. If he's saying it's 1.3 million, the number's 1.3 million as far as the cable and satellite providers. It could trickle up. Pay-per-view sales always tend to. I know promoters, they joke that they still get a residual check from a pay-per-view that happened 10 years ago. Those numbers they just kind of come in every once in a while. For example, Canelo and Cotto, that was announced at 900,000 pay-per-view buys. A year later, HBO's accounting office confirmed that it actually wound up being 938,000 buys. So, yeah, it could go beyond 1.3. But right now, as far as all the trends and when such numbers are reported, 1.3 million would be the number, which puts it at about $100 million in pay-per-view sales. That's not counting the movie theater sales and, online pay-per-view sales. So this event was a massive event. It was a very good fight, and it generated a hell of a lot of money and a lot of interest enough to where people want to see a rematch. So it was a rousing success. It just really bothered me that Golden Boy went after a respectable reporter like Lance Pugmire like that. It makes me want to take a knee for Golden Boy's next fight, to be honest. I'm going to stand with Lance and take a knee.
I don't know. I have my theories, but I'll keep them to myself. But yeah, I hate to see Lance Pugmire hung out there to dry. He's a good guy,
Right.
does some good reporting. I enjoy his story and his style, and he seems to be a very, very trusted voice in the sport. So to do him like that was kind of womp womp.
Absolutely. And then here's my other problem with Golden Boy. Every time they seem to put out a number, it always turns out to be exaggerated. Last year when Canelo fought Amir Khan, the number they tried to put out there was 600,000. My sources, Kevin Ioli was actually the first to report it, but then I went to my own sources, and we discovered that the event generated about $30 million in pay-per-view sales, which comes out to roughly 465, 475. Golden Boy disputed that number. They had their people call me up trying to bully me into saying this is 600,000. You got to put that number out there. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Months later, when Mitch Abramson, who was still writing for Ring Magazine at the time, which Golden Boy owns, mentioned that the fight did 600,000, Eric Gomez actually went on record, said, "Oh, well, the fight didn't do that much, but we know what you're trying to get at, Mitch." So it's like they actually caught themselves in their own lie, and they do this all the time. And in their defense, a lot of promoters do it. I mean, Bob Arum will throw out a number for his pay-per-view, and then we'll find out months later, after everyone reported it, that it's usually about 100,000 sales left. So Golden Boy isn't alone in it, but it's just just stick with the 1.3. If they want to come out with the number later on and say, hey, this is what you reported, but with online sales, we made 150 million in sales, great. Do that later on. Just celebrate the fact that this is a great event for boxing, despite, the official outcome, of course. But as far as making money goes, I mean, it was a rousing success.
Yeah, it's great. 1.3 is a great number. We've seen pay-per-views in 2017 that were as low as, 165? With the
exactly. 135. Yeah, for the rematch. Yeah. And I'm going to say this. Yeah, here's the real storyline. If you want to talk about Canelo, he is one of only two people in the 21st century to have two pay-per-views in the same year do 1 million buys or better. He did it with Chavez in May. I think it went just over 1 million. And now this one. The only other fighter, Floyd Mayweather didn't even do it. Manny Pacquiao in 2011 when he fought Shane Mosley, and then the third fight with Juan Manuel Marquez. That's the only two times in 17 years that a fighter has sold 1 million or more pay-per-view buys twice in a single year. There's your celebration. No need to be negative. Be positive.
Man, I'll have a $1 million sale. If somebody gave me $1.2 million, trust, it's a celebration over here in the hood. So congratulations to them regardless. Lance Pugmire, I got love for you. I definitely got love for you. So moving on to, let's talk about Wilder Ortiz. And this is a great, convoluted topic. When I first heard the announcement that Ortiz tested positive for performance-enhancing and drugs, and I sat and I thought, it's like the third opponent of Wilder's has had a positive drug test. I went and did a quick Google, and it is.
Right.
And I kept thinking, every heavyweight manager takes license Deontay Wilder, and I texted you. I said, if this was a Scooby-Doo mystery, I would totally accuse somebody of sneaking into the houses of all his opponents and putting PEDs in the protein powder or injecting them with something in their sleep. And we're going to talk about that more also when Lou DiBella goes on. But let's get Jake's take on Wilder Ortiz PED fiasco, and then that'll segue into this show.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure you saw I wrote a piece on my brand new home on badculture.net about how I would like to see the show go on. I wrote that with the thought of I don't want to see Deontay Wilder's career interrupted any more so than it already has been. At this point, I couldn't care less what happens to Lou Ortiz's future as a boxer. I mean, if they decide he's suspended for the rest of his life, he deserves it for surrounding himself with idiots. All right, even in giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's on this high blood pressure medication, which he is, even if he's just using it for that, it's his team's responsibility to disclose that when they are filling out the VADA paperwork. There's a section that says, are you on any medication? And there's also an area where you're supposed to request for a therapeutic use exemption. They did none of that. They left it blank. Then when he tested positive, now all of a sudden, hey, we were at Walgreens a month ago and we got this high blood pressure medication. And I know he was he was hospitalized over the summer for hypertension, at which point he was prescribed this medicine. The Florida Boxing Commission approved that. So that's why I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt in that regard, but it's still utter stupidity on their part. Once you test positive for performance-enhancing drugs, it is your responsibility to prove without a doubt every time you enter a fight that you are a clean boxer. I mean, he should be wearing a VADA ankle monitor, letting them know at all times where he is anytime they say, hey, you got to pee in a cup for us. He should be going to them and saying, hey, I'm ready. I'm clean. I want to prove that I'm clean. They shouldn't be looking for him. He shouldn't be missing press conferences. And his team damn sure shouldn't be missing those sections on paperwork. That is just a horrible job on their part. And if they decide he's not going to, if the commission says, well, even if you got high blood pressure, maybe you shouldn't be boxing, that's on him. There's no pity party for Luis Ortiz whatsoever at this point. Yeah, I mean, on paper he's 38. He's probably a lot older, but like Deontay Wilder wants to fight him. It's the same way he wanted to fight Alexander Povetkin, and he had to be dragged out of England. Say, no, we're not going to Russia. We're going home to Birmingham. The fight is canceled. The same thing will likely happen here, and I believe his team has already, taken the steps towards trying to secure another opponent. Hopefully it's not Berman Stavern, but on 5 or 6 weeks' notice, we're likely going to get that. But, if there is a way for the fight to happen and Deontay absolutely wants it, then I want it for Deontay. Because at this point, I think everyone would want to see Deontay knock out Luis Ortiz and say this is a major win for boxing. Here is arguably the cleanest fighter in the sport because he's the one guy who is standing up saying, I want VADA testing for all my fights, and he's the one that keeps testing clean, and his opponents are consistently testing dirty. And the sad part is, even when they're getting substitute opponents, like when Povetkin tested positive, he had Chris Arreola, who failed 2 drug tests. Granted, it was for marijuana. But now if Ortiz is out, it's going to be Berman Stavern, who last year tested positive for performance-enhanced drugs. He pled ignorance. He's been enrolled in the program ever since. But, the moral is that the heavyweight division is just loaded with drug cheats. And it's like Deontay Wilder eventually is going to run out of clean opponents. It's a shame because he wants to prove to the world that he is the best heavyweight in the world. He just can't get a clean opponent to plead that case for him.
They said he had high blood pressure and that Berman Stavern had cramps in his calves. And I haven't played this in a long time, and I got to play it this morning for this.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God! Stop fucking lying!
Stop lying, man.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, all of this is just
bad protein shake. You start testing positive multiple times. It's like, what's happening? Let me ask you this, Jay. So we see this happen right before Wilder's going to fight. It happened with Povetkin. It happened with Ortiz. Stavern happened afterwards. Right previous, do you think that these fighters are continuing to cycle these PEDs, or do you think upon learning that they're going to fight Deontay Wilder, they start cycling in PEDs with the fear of, well, not fear of, just wanting that extra edge around Wilder? Do you think this is a habitual thing, or do you think this is something they cycle thinking they can cycle it right back out like once the press conference is?
All right, I'm going to disclaim this with this is wild speculation on my part. I'm not accusing anyone of doing this, so I don't want lawsuits coming my way. But, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's just fighters. It's just, their nature. It's like they feel like this is normal. They have to do this. This is part of their training regimen, and they just can't break that cycle, literally in this case. So, and maybe there is a thought, okay, now I'm fighting for the heavyweight, championship. I need that extra little edge now. Maybe if I do it now and then I come up clean 3 weeks later. The big thing with Ortiz, too, for people who are theorizing that, what he was using, the high blood pressure medication, he was actually using it as a masking agent. He wasn't at the press conference on September 20th, and then 2 days later is when he produced the test that produced positive. So that's the theory, that he was still trying to cycle off, and I don't know. It's just it just gets me angry because this is the last heavyweight fight of the year that everyone was looking forward to. We had Joshua and Klitschko earlier in the year, and then Showtime was really, they had Joshua and Kubrat-Pulev fighting on October 28th, and then a week later it was supposed to be Wilder Ortiz. That's the perfect way to set up Joshua Wilder for 2018. Yeah. And now, I mean, if Wilder fights, there's still a little bit of momentum to build towards that. But you wanted to see Deontay fight Wilder, fight and beat Luis Ortiz to set up that fight. And now all that momentum is squandered. It's like it's the ultimate moment in boxing. We just can't get away from it. Every time something good happens, we have to have something bad. It's just
gotta have a black eye. It's very frustrating for Wilder because this is just more and more time and more time and more time and more ring rust and more inactivity, and it just makes the idea of the Anthony Joshua fight in the future a little less sweet. Not because it's not still a great matchup, but we want to see Deontay Wilder at his best, and we can't get Deontay Wilder at his best if he's not active. Anthony Joshua's in his fights. Matchroom has plenty guys to keep him busy until they get there. But on the American side here for Wilder, we want our great heavyweight champion as well. And we're being prevented from seeing that because we have these fighters who keep habitually testing positive. It's really tragic. And I'm looking forward to getting Lou's take on that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I want to say, one thing I found very interesting was the WBC's response to all this. You know, they said they know that the fight's on November 4th. They don't want to keep ticket holders up in the air. They don't want to keep Deontay and Lou up in the air. They got to make a ruling. But it's like they said they're actually getting feedback that fans are getting angry that all these fights are getting canceled. It's like, why are you angry about progress? I mean, you know, that's the downside. Yes, we're losing fights. The upside is we're getting rid of the cheaters one by one. So, you know, and with that the case, like I said, I wrote the piece saying, you know, hopefully the show goes on. But, I mean, if the WBC is going to take a zero-tolerance policy, then obviously the response you want to see is Luis Ortiz, pack your bags, find something else to do for a living because you're not going to box anymore.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're all in for all out or you're in support, if you don't make any decision on it, you might as well say, I'm okay with it. Well, how about this? Why don't we take a quick commercial break? I think so we'll take a quick couple commercials, and we'll be right back with
Champs Boxing Club and Fitness, bringing the city of Danbury a safe, clean, and professional boxing gym. Located on 128 East Liberty Street, Champs Boxing Club offers you more than 5 trainers who are all either current or former professional and amateur boxers. Look us up online at champsboxingclub.org for a full description on membership rates, discounts, and more about our facility. Also, check us out on social media at Champs Danbury. If you're ready to join, send us an email at cbcdanbury@gmail.com, and we'll get right back to you. Or swing by and visit. We look forward to you joining our team. Come see what all the buzz is all about here at Champs in Danbury, Connecticut. John Francis Agency is comprised of dedicated insurance professionals who manage risk, protect wealth, and cater to clients' personal and business needs. We offer disability coverage for boxers as well as life and liability insurance. Career-ending injury insurance along with illness insurance is also offered through our agency. For more information, please visit us online at johnfrancisagency.com or call us today at 732-497-9624. John Francis Agency. Our daily grind is protecting your wealth.
And we are back. Welcome to the Morning Punch-In Show with RB and Jake and Jake Donovan, Jake in the Box. To recap the show, if you're listening in for your girl RB, she is traveling this week. She is in Durham for a long time. If you are in the Durham area, make sure you support your girl and go out and see her card on October 19th, put on by Raging Babe promotion, headlined by Marco Bailey versus Massey. So if you're in the general area, you got family in the area, your cousin, the auntie you haven't talked to, and the show, send them to check out a great night of action. You know how RB is now. She put on a great show. So make sure you go out. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the North Carolina state title is on the line in this fight, and it's been a number of years before they've had a title fight in the area. So make sure you go out and support this great event and pick up some tickets, or hey, just buy some tickets and so they can make some cash and then give them away to charity. Send them to. Hey, now that's a great idea. If you're listening to the show and you're in the local area and you can attend the fight, the tickets are very reasonably priced. Buy some, and if you can't attend it, give them to a local gym, a local PAL where the kids are training to become boxers, because I know these young people love to see professional fights. So support a great event and donate to the kids and pick up some tickets and all that great stuff. We are waiting for I am here with our guy, Jake Donovan. We've been talking about the World Boxing Super Series, and we've been talking about the recent positive drug testing of Deontay Wilder's potential opponent, Luis Ortiz, and what should be done with him. I'm going to take a look. We posed a hot question this morning about what should be done with him. One of our listeners, our Nashville Boxing, said his fate should be a fight versus Deontay Wilder, which was kind of what they wanted to do. Anyway, so shout out to Nashville Boxing for our card. My own thoughts on the hot question of the day of what should happen to Luis Ortiz. I think he should be banned. One positive test, they're banned for what, like six months, something like that. I think if you have a second positive drug test, you should be banned from the sport for 3 years. I don't care. If we're going to adopt a zero tolerance policy, 3 years, you get a 3-year ban. I've seen other sports where they get harsher penalties for marijuana usage, and nobody out there is smoking any bud to get ready to fight. to make their performance that much better. In fact, you might curl up in the corner of the ring and go to sleep. I don't understand the harsher penalties for marijuana usage than PEDs. I think he should be banned for like 2 years. Jake, what do you think should be the ultimate penalty if you could wave your wand and penalize Ortiz for the positive drug test? Did I lose Jake?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got interrupted. You're asking me what the ultimate penalty should be for Ortiz?
Yes. If you have your way, well, how would it be?
If I was a commissioner, I will say, not keeping the thoughts of, Deontay Wilder wanting to fight. If I was a commissioner and it happened at my house, I agree with you. It should be a lot stiffer penalty than, the 9 months he got the first time. I mean, he got 9 months the first time and whatever fine he had to pay. And he was barely apologetic when he tested positive for that. It's like Golden Boy had to kind of force him to say, hey, if you want us behind you, just admit to it so we could all move on. And here he is once again trying, now he's talking crap to Deontay Wilder, saying, I'll provide a hair sample. Let's bet our paychecks, that I'm clean. Well, you're not clean. You already provided it. So if I was a commissioner, and again, I see a guy who's not taking, any accountability for his actions, 9 months last time, I'd say at least 2 years. And at 38, that's probably a death sentence to his career. I hate to use that term in light of everything that's going on, but that's, he's not looking at a promising career when he comes back at age 40, if he even is that young. So, but I would say a minimum of 2 years and a very heavy fine. And even if he were to fight, I would say this, being that he produced a positive drug test and he didn't fill out the paperwork properly, he already can't enroll in VADA at this point. So being that he can't participate in random drug testing until November 4th, even if he were allowed to fight, you can't fight for the title. You lose at least half your paycheck. You're still going to fight Deontay Wilder, but it's going to be a non-title fight. All you're going to get is bragging rights if you win and the accusation that you cheated in order to win. So if he still wants to go through with the fight at that point, then it's on him. But, I mean, that's if the commission were to allow it. But, with the zero-tolerance policy in mind, he should be banned for a minimum of 2 years, in my opinion.
All right. We have a caller from the 212. Let me double-check and make sure this is not our guest, Mr. DiBella. 212-793, you're on with the Morning Punching Show. Who is this?
Boxing Fan 101.
What's going on, Boxing Fan 101?
I'm just listening in. Just listening in.
While we have you on the line, what do you think should happen to Luis Ortiz after this recent positive drug test?
I mean, I would go to his medical doctor and get some type of evidence if this is the case, and then go from there. I mean, if he has a case of having taken this, medication, that's one side of the story. But, if it's totally intentional, then, maybe a suspension then.
For a short suspension, a long suspension, what do you think is just if he did, in fact, take it?
I mean, really and truly, it should be maybe 2 years, 2-3 years, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I'm going to put you back. We're going to continue on with the show. Mr. DiBella in just a moment. While we are waiting, I will go through a couple of, in case you missed the topics from the week that have come across the news wire. Here was one that caught my eye that I thought was interesting and factual. Canelo, we spent some time at the top of the show talking about Canelo versus GGG and the pay-per-view numbers and the potential for a rematch. Yes, everybody wants to see that rematch. Canelo says he wants to see a rematch. GGG definitely wants a rematch. There's one problem. Jamal Charlo wants his WBC mandatory fight against Triple G. Right, so in their infinite wisdom, the WBC will now be communicating with all the parties involved to rematch each other. Charlo doesn't feel like he's willing to step aside. He wants to get that WBC mandatory fight against Canelo, and there has to be a WBC mandatory middleweight title every year. So there is a potential for a back unless they pay Charlo a whole lot of step-aside money, but that's just speculation. We will see what happens with their decision, and we will wait the outcome of that and see if we, in fact, get the rematch in May or if something else derails it. I'm going to pick up another caller while we're waiting. Let's see who this is from the 917. 917, this is the Morning Punch-In Show. Who are you and where are you calling from?
Hey, ladies.
All right.
I'm calling from a dog park in Seacliff, New York. It's Lou DiBella.
What's going on, Lou DiBella?
I don't know, man. I woke up this morning at 6 minutes. The world is a messed up place, let me tell you.
It is.
You know, it's like, on one hand, it's a nice distraction to talk boxing. On the other hand, it's like hard to watch television or read a newspaper anymore.
Painful, just switching on into life after you have the grace of opening your eyes in the morning. You never know what you're going to see out there today. Unfortunately, it is a mass shooting in Los Angeles, and our prayers go out to the families of those who've been affected and injured and killed in that attack. Lou, I'm glad we have you on this. We have a lot to go on. You know, you're never far removed from what's going on, like at the top of the headlines of boxing. And this time, again, Deontay Wilder, another opponent, tests positive for a drug test. Is someone sneaking out and finding Deontay's opponents once they become announced, and are they slipping stuff in their food just to derail the fight?
I don't know, but I feel really bad for Deontay. I mean, like, you know, I think he's like sort of, you know, this is sort of pushing him to the edge. He's sort of wondering, what did I do, you know? Meanwhile, like, you know, we didn't have, people are talking about, like, whether the fight's going to happen. You know, we're waiting to see, you know, I guess there's going to be some follow-up with Ortiz over maybe a hair test could possibly be done on steroids, you know, whether or not they're in his system. You know, it appears that he may have been prescribed these drugs for some kind of a high blood pressure problem, which probably, by the way, will raise some questions with the New York Commission about him getting checked out from a health standpoint, if that's the issue. You know, right now, even if the hair sample was negative, it's not Deontay's decision or mine as to whether the fight would even be allowed to occur. So at the moment, we're sort of in a holding pattern, but we got to decide probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. There's going to be a show November 4th. He's the heavyweight champion. He sat too long, way too long, not for any fault of his or mine or anybody else's. He didn't want to fight Severn. It took a long time to work out a step aside, and this deal with Ortiz, which is one of the things that makes it disheartening that this happened. And, you know, I'm not sitting here screaming, cheater, 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 though at the very least there was some, like, real ignorance or a real, like, a real bad mistake in not disclosing the use of these, of these medications that are prohibited under VADA. So, you know, the whole thing, there's not much to say. You know, it's like I've been through this 3 times in like a year and a half. I mean, it's sort of crazy.
Lou, how do you keep Deontay Wilder from kind of slipping into a depression? When we've interviewed him before, he's mentioned that when fights are falling out, it's been really emotionally, it took its toll on him. How do you keep him engaged and inspired when these things continue to happen to him?
No, you just try to be a friend. You know, you pick up the phone and you call, say you could only do the best you can. You can't control other people, and you're not in control of blood tests, and, you know, just trust in trust in some higher power, and trust in the fact that everything will work out for the best. You're a clean guy and you're doing the right things. Look, part of what makes this particular thing so disheartening, and the fact that we're sitting here with all this uncertainty, is that here's a guy that was going to go to Russia to fight Povetkin, who everyone thought was the boogeyman. Now, Povetkin, I will say, is a miserable, cheating piece of shit. And like, there's no question about that. He's earned the nickname Povetkin, and you know, his career has been marked by cheating. And you know, we won a legal case that allows me to say that. But you know, after that fight, like, it was weird that he got criticism for not fighting a guy who was filthy in the guy's backyard when you know, a ruling was made by other people, because the guy was, like, loaded up on some banned substance. And Deontay's taken a lot of heat for stuff that really is not, in his control. So he's the one who said, I don't care about the money. Like, this is no bull. I mean, we were paying big money to Vern to fight somebody else, but he would step aside so that Deontay, could fight Luis Ortiz. And Ortiz is a very tough fight. He's a really, really good fighter. One of the greatest amateur heavyweights in history, and an undefeated left-handed heavyweight with power that nobody wants to go near. But the whole reason he wanted to fight was to prove he was legit, the best heavyweight in the world. He wanted to quiet the critics and the haters. And now, here this has occurred. Even if this wasn't cheating, even if this was a real bad mistake and not disclosing information, he's being victimized once again. And people should really have some empathy and understand, hey, this is a proud champion, and a lot of the stuff that's gone on in his career, I mean, the majority of the stuff that people are criticizing isn't in his control. And with all due respect to AJ, Anthony Joshua, a 43-year-old Klitschko wasn't exactly like King Kong. And not to use a double entendre or a double meaning there. I mean, and by the way, if Deontay ever had a chance to get into the ring with Anthony, and he hurt Anthony the way Klitschko did, and I don't think Klitschko at that stage of his career was a particularly dangerous puncher and finisher. Deontay certainly would have finished that fight, I think. And look, Deontay could have just taken a mandatory right now and waited out the eventual fight with Anthony Joshua. Instead, he reached for a fight that was the hardest fight for him that you could make in the world that was available to him, and here we are in this situation again. So, I wish boxing fans would be a little bit more understanding toward a guy that has a lot of reasons to be upset with him.
Absolutely. So, Lou, where do we go?
We're waiting for the DC. Ortiz's people have submitted a bunch of information. We're going to look into whether there's anything that can be done to preserve the fight, and then sometime in the next probably 48 hours we'll announce. There's going to be a show November 4th at Barclays Center. There's an unbelievable undercard. Porter and Granado should be an all-action fight. Deontay's going to defend his title on that card. We'll figure out in the next 48 hours exactly. We sort of have to wait some things out here because we're not also. Here's another thing people don't understand. I'm getting all these stupid messages sent to me about it's just fight the guy. Well, this isn't a decision. I didn't send. We didn't send ourselves a letter from VADA saying he failed the clean boxing program and he tested positive. So it's really not it's not our decision to be made here alone. There are other decision makers like the State Athletic Commission, like the WBC, and we're waiting for, I guess, what you would call quote unquote due process. Ortiz also has a chance to test the B sample, but the B sample is probably irrelevant here. Because the one thing he's done is he said, I did take these substances, but I took them prescribed by a doctor for high blood pressure. Now it raises the question when you filled out forms, all these time, why wouldn't you just put it on the form? Why wouldn't you disclose it? And I guess unfortunately for him, these substances are on the ban list because they can also be used to mask steroid use. And I'm not saying that that's how he was using them this time, but like I said, we didn't send ourselves a letter.
Well, let's turn and look at some of the policies going on. You have the big show coming up on October 14th, the triple header with RLJ, Hurt versus Charlo versus Lubin happening there in Brooklyn. What is the response?
That's a terrific action card from top to bottom. It actually has a purpose. There are three, competitive, interesting fights on paper. Personally, I think the Charlo Lubin fight has fight of the year potential on it. I mean, I think that could be just an explosive fight, and it's between two undefeated, young studs, and I'm really, really super looking forward to that fight. But the other two fights, Gausha, undefeated Olympian. That's a huge test, getting in there with Lara. getting a shot at the belt. And Austin Trout's the consummate pro. Jarrett Hurd has really impressed me in the last couple of years. He's a string of really good wins, and Austin Trout should give him a handful. So I think that's a great show, and that's not a cost-prohibitive show for fans. It's one where the ticket prices are really sort of like affordable and reasonable. You can get great seats, without breaking the bank, for around the cost you would pay to order a pay-per-view. So if anybody's in the vicinity or the tri-state area, or anyone wants to travel to the Barclays Center on the 14th, and the undercard's going to be terrific. You have Tony Harrison in a competitive fight coming back on the undercard. Cindy Serrano, one of the two champions, Serrano sisters, will be on the card. The 14th is a great show. So that's it's just really, really, really good boxing. And I hope people come out and check it out. Despite a lot of the bad news that comes out and bad judging and fights that are put in jeopardy or whatever, it's still been a pretty good run for competitive boxing, over this last 12 months. And on the 14th, that run's going to continue, and I'd like to see as many fans as possible at the Barclays Center on October 14th. They get their tickets through Ticketmaster or the Barclays Center box office, etc.
Yeah, it looks like boxing is going to take the swing back to the East Coast to close out the year strong. So a lot of good action, starting off with the Lara Hurd Charlo card on October 14th. So, Lou, we thank you for calling in this morning. We're looking forward to that card. Keep us updated on Twitter with what's happening with Wilder and what's going to happen with him. I'm sure we'll see the stories coming out from various sources in the media, but we just hope to see him back in the ring the sooner than the later.
And good job, ladies, with this show. I'm actually a loyal listener, so good job.
Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
We are going to take a couple quick commercials, and we'll come back with the In Case You Missed It news, the weekend fight schedule, and then we will close it out.
Are you an elite athlete looking to take your training to an elite level? Then Porter High Performance Center in Las Vegas is your #1 spot. Our private training facility offers you high-altitude chambers, a boxing ring with telestrators, cryogenics tubs, helix machines, a multi-purpose weight machine, and more. Come and train like an elite champion with us at Porter High Performance Center. For more information, contact us on social media at Porter High Performance and through former world champion at Showtime Sean P. Are you an entrepreneur looking to find out where to start or develop a business plan? Are you looking to start a business or grow your business revenue? Are you a business owner that needs fresh new ideas or needs to solve challenges with strategy, marketing, or process? Red Beach Advisors is a management consulting group focused on helping entrepreneurs, startups, and companies build, grow, and scale. Contact Red Beach Advisors at info@redbeachadvisors.com or 424-247-6143. Red Beach Advisors helps companies build, grow, and scale through strategy, process, systems, and people. We are the experts. Contact us at 424-247-6143 or www.redbeachadvisors.com.
All right, you guys, it is 8:48, so I'm going to run through some In Case You Missed It topics. I already mentioned one as we waited for Lou. Canelo says he wants a Triple G. Triple G wants Canelo, but Jamal Charlo wants his mandatory WC mandatory fight against Golovkin. So we will have to see what happens to that. Speaking of the WBC and speaking of mandatories and speaking of fights that should have been happened, Adonis Stevenson versus Eliander Alvarez, we've been reading, has been come to terms, but it looks like that fight may get pushed to 2018. They're currently in serious negotiations, but they haven't come to any type of finality, so it looks like that fight date could possibly get pushed into January 2018. Shocking. We'll have to wait to see an Adonis Stevenson fight. Oh, my God. Don't cry, everybody. Okay. It says that, according to Boxing Scene, their mutual promoter, Yvonne Michelle of John Yvonne Michelle Promotions, is having a tough time matching a date and a venue that works for Showtime. Alvarez is the mandatory challenger. He has been the mandatory challenger for 2 years to Stevenson's WBC light heavyweight title. So right now, I guess the big hang-up in negotiations is finding a place and a venue that works for Showtime. So we will keep an eye on that. Also, in case you missed it news, heavyweights Tomas Adamek and Fred Cassie are set to return to ring on November 18th. Fred Cassie, we've seen him in some good fights. He went life and death with Chris Arreola. Thomas Adamic, we have seen him in the ring, so it looks like they will be fighting each other. Also, swinging back to Adonis Stevenson, I should have said this one as I wrapped up the last story. Andre Ward's coach, Virgil Hunter, is now saying that there was no money in Andre Ward fighting against Adonis Stevenson, and that is probably adds to part of the reason of why he retired. So for those of you who were clamoring, who wanted to see Andre Ward run Stevenson a fade or vice versa, Virgil Hunter is saying that there was no money in the fight, and that's why it was never taken very, very seriously. Also, and in case you missed it, news, Sean Showtime Porter is back in the ring on November 4th at the Barclays Center as part of this East Coast swing that's going to close out the boxing for the year 2017. He will be taking on Adrian Granados. That's a great, fun fight. It could be a lot of action. And that's also great for not only for Sean Porter, who's been out of the ring. He had to withdraw from his last fight on the Mayweather-McGregor undercard due to some family loss in the family and some family issues. So it's great to see him back. And it's also great to see Adrian Granados. He has been desperate, calling for fights. And to see him finally in a quality fight, I'm sure he is very pleased, and we as the fans will likely get a great fight. Also, and in case you missed it, news, for those who are fans of Orlando Series Salido, it looks like he is testing the waters with a new trainer, and that new trainer is none other than Abel Sanchez. It's been reported that Orlando Salido has arrived in Big Bear for a test run with Abel Sanchez as he prepares for his next fight on November 25th. Opponent to be announced. No opponent yet, but it looks like he's trying to check things out with Abel Sanchez to see if it could be a great fit. So we'll see what happens to that. If it is, the Salido explosive style, the Abel Sanchez Zencom of the Summit Training Center might be a good match. You never know. We'll wait and see. And lastly, and in case you missed it, news, Gerald Big Baby Miller will be making his HBO debut on November 11th against Mara's Watch. Gerald Big Baby Miller said he's wanted the big fights, the big opportunities, and now is his chance. He's going to put his big mouth and his big hands to the test in his HBO debut, on November 11th. So be sure to watch for that. To close out the show, because we are coming up on the top of the hour, I will run through the weekend fight schedule. It's pretty light weekend. There are some fights out there, a lot of local fights in your general areas, but I will give you the ones that will make it to TV so you can check them out. On Friday, October 6th, here from my hometown, from Los Angeles, on Estrella TV, Christian Chimpa Gonzalez will be taking on Gamaliel Diaz, and Edgar Valerio versus Martin Cardona in the co-feature that will be on Estrella TV. So be sure to look out for that, courtesy of Golden Boy. On Saturday, October 7th, and you can watch it on AWE TV from Manchester, England, Anthony Crolla will take on Ricky Burns. And in the co-feature, Sam Eggington will take on Mohamed Minuan for Eggington's European welterweight title. So if you have AWE, you can watch it there. On Audience Network, on same-day tape from Stuttgart, Germany, Chris Eubank Jr., who we talked about. Jake says he picks him in a rematch against Billy Joe Saunders if they ever have it. Chris Eubank Jr. will be fighting in the World Boxing Super Series quarterfinals against Avni Yildirim. So you can watch that on Audience Network. Also on the card, Farhat Arslan versus Mauricio Barragan. Cruiserweights in the co-feature. And also on the same day, from Tampico, Mexico, on BN Sports Español, Jorge Paez Jr. versus Felipe de la Paz. And in the co-feature, Tomas Rojas versus Edivaldo Ortega. So you can watch those on Saturday on BN Sports. And that is your weekend fight schedule. So before we sign off, I would like to thank Jake Donovan for Jake's Take. Great to be with you as always. Thank you to our guest, Lou DiBella, for bringing us up to date on what's happening with the Wilder situation, the Povetkin, what happened with the Povetkin and the judgment situation, and the good things that are coming up with his card coming up on October 14th, the Lara Gaucher, Herb Trout, Charlie Lubin card that will be taking place at the Barclays Center. So if you're in the New York area, make sure you go check that one out on October 14th. Today's show was brought to you by Boxing Insider, Porter High Performance Center, Nationwide Warranties, Champs Boxing Club, War Tape Brand, Bernie's Boxing, Red Beach Advisor, and the WBC Cares. And also our new sponsor who will be sponsoring the In Case You Missed It segment, Undeterred. Undeterred is a fine purveyor of T-shirts. Undeterred, preserving despite setbacks. Are you undeterred? Visit Undeterred at undeterred.bigcartel.com and shop their selection of statement-making tees. So make sure you visit Undeterred and check them out. They have some really, really great stuff. You'll probably see some stuff popping up in my social media because I already have some of their stuff. That's how we met. But anyway, thank you again for listening. We'll be back next Monday. Your girl RB will be back with me. I know you missed her. I missed her too. It's not the same when she's not around. So thank you for listening and goodbye.